Hi guys, for today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how to get your dream apartment. This has been highly requested recently and I'm super excited to do this video. I'm going to be sharing with you just tips and tricks and budget things that worked for me and some information that you may not already know if you are looking to move out for the first time or to get an apartment. So the first and the most important thing is, what is your budget? How much can you afford? And this is pretty much decided and set out for you. So if you are looking to get an apartment, you need to have an income of 3 times of whatever the monthly rent is. So if you're looking at an apartment that is $1,000, you need to make $3,000 a month, and you need to be able to prove that and show that to the landlord or the person that you are renting from. Of course, there are going to be some places who might not check that or make exceptions, but that is just like a general rule all over, like across the board, is that your income needs to be 3 times of whatever the rent is. So definitely be prepared to prove that and be able to show that when you are trying to get an apartment. The next big question you want to ask yourself is how much to save up. And there are a lot of different costs that you may not factor in when you are moving out for the first time. So not only do you need to save up and just be able to afford the monthly rent, you are also going to be charged a security deposit, which in California is usually 1 to 2 months rent. But I have seen places around my area that it is a little less, but on average, I find that the places that I've moved, I've had to pay either 1 or 2 months rent as that cost. You're also going to have to pay like an application fee. Sometimes they charge to run your credit, things like that. So those are other costs that you need to factor in. Now, I would recommend having about 3 months rent saved up. However, if you want to keep in mind, so someone like myself who is self-employed, I am technically not employed by YouTube. You're not employed by your network. You are self-employed. Sometimes when you are self-employed, they will require you to show the full year's rent in your bank account. So that is something that you would need to save up. So if you are looking at an apartment that was $1,000 a month, you need to show that you have $12,000 in a bank account that is in your name. Now, beyond rent, there are other expenses. You're gonna have electric bill, you're gonna have a water bill, you're gonna have a trash bill, depending on what the landlord pays bill-wise. Sometimes that stuff is included and sometimes it's not. You're also going to need to pay renter's insurance, which is something that I've never really hear people talking about, but I highly suggest getting renter's insurance. It's not that expensive and it is going to cover if there is a fire or something. You're going to have insurance on your items that are in your apartment. And then if you have like a cable or internet bill. And I would recommend, definitely if you're moving out for the first time, look around and see exactly what dollar amount the prices are. Don't just assume and save like a general ballpark. Know exactly what cable company provides for your area and what exactly that dollar amount is that you have to save up. Don't just generalize or take a guess on that. You want to know what exactly you're going to have to pay. Another few things you're going to have to pay for are movers. If you are moving furniture into your place, I recommend, and I always try and just sell as much as I can as opposed to paying movers. That's just kind of what I do, because I find when you move to a new space, some of those items that you're moving over might not work. So rather than to pay a mover to move a majority of your stuff over, make sure that you get rid of things that you're not going to need, and make sure you also save up for your furniture and decor pieces, any key necessities you're going to need for the kitchen. You're going to need pots and pans and all those different things. All of those things cost money. So those are all the things that you want to keep in the back of your mind when you are saving up for your apartment. The next question is, how are you going to save up that money, and what is your budget going to be to keep yourself on track to save up that money? And I will talk about something that I used for the past, I want to say like 8 months, that has helped me tremendously. This is not sponsored at all. I randomly found this app myself. It is called Wally. It is an expense tracker, and you basically log in everything that you spend money on, where you purchase it from, and at the end of the month, it is going to tell you, you spent this much money on coffee, you spent this much money on clothes, you spent this much money on gas. Like, it breaks everything down for you, and you can see how much money you're spending and also how many of those purchases are so unnecessary. So it's something that after I used it for 2 months, I definitely was able to fix my budget and stop spending on things that I definitely didn't need to be spending on. Another great thing about it is you can factor in your income, factor in how much money you're trying to save every month, and it will give you a daily budget of how much money you can spend every single day to stay on track of that goal. And if you overspend, it will let you know. So it isn't automatic. You do have to go and factor in and type everything in yourself, but it's like a habit for me now. Whenever I whip out my card or cash to pay, I know I need to log that in right away. And you guys, like, seriously, with having that app in these past like few months, I was able to save up my entire down payment for my home that I want to purchase. So I would highly recommend it. And if you guys want to see another video on how to save up and how to budget for your dream home, I can do that for you guys as well. Now the next question is, how do you actually find an apartment and how do you find a practical apartment? I recommend taking out a notepad and putting some of the things that you feel you want in an apartment, and with those things, put little stars next to things that you think you can compromise on. And if that apartment doesn't necessarily have it, you don't need it. Something to think about when you are going into the whole apartment thing. This is not going to be your forever home unless you plan on renting for the rest of your life, which some people, that's what they choose to do. But if you're looking to save up and purchase a home one day, your apartment doesn't need to have everything. It's just so much better to save on some of those upgrades that may not be necessary in the long run. And obviously you're renting, so a place isn't going to be perfect. I can say now, like, the bathroom in here is the worst and it's not what I wanted. I definitely wanted a bigger bathroom, but I compromised on it because for me to get a bigger bathroom, I would need to spend about $200 more a month, and I would rather just save on that because it's not the end of the world that I don't have the largest bathroom. It's definitely going to be something that I can save up for and look forward to in my forever home. So once you have all of that figured out, you can start your search, and there are a ton of different search engines that you can use online. There's realtor.com, there's Zillow, there's apartments.com, and your area may even have some specific to you. I would highly recommend steering away from Craigslist if you don't have like a background in real estate or know someone that has a background in real estate. I'm not knocking it completely at all. My last apartment that you guys loved, that was like ocean view and everything, I found that place on Craigslist, but I did do my back research to find that it was legit. I found out who the owner was. I made sure I was speaking to the owner of the property. Those are things that the average person may not know how to find. So if you don't know how to do that, stay away from Craigslist. Plus there are so many scams on Craigslist, so it can be a little sketchy, but searching online, you can usually narrow down your search and see what that place has in accordance to that little list you made of what you actually want in an apartment. So the last and final question to ask yourself is, what do I do when I find my dream apartment? And I first want to start off and say thank you to both of my parents, because all this information I learned from both of them, and because of this information, it's the reason why I got both of my apartments. There were tons of people trying to get these apartments, and I beat out a lot of people for both apartments just by doing these things. So they're really good tips, and definitely take away from these. First and foremost, I know that we live in a different generation where technology and texting and all that has kind of surpassed everything else. But if you see an ad for an apartment that you are interested in looking at, call them. Do not email, do not text, don't do any of that. Call them, get them on the phone, and set up an appointment as soon as possible, especially if you really want the apartment. I know living in California, apartment hunting is very competitive, like very competitive. Both of these apartments, when I went to look at them, there were like 6 or 7 other people viewing the apartment at the same time that I was. They're just trying to rent it, and the demand is so high. So call them, set up an appointment as soon as possible. If you email them, who knows how often they check their email. The second thing, if you are really interested in this apartment, if you can look at the pictures, obviously you want to see it first before you know 100%, but bring a filled out rental application. They're probably going to make you fill out their own version of it, but you can go online and print one out for free and have all of your information on there. They will be so impressed. The landlord or the property manager, they're so impressed if you come prepared with that already done. And both times that I did that, I was the only person that came with an application already ready. So they had all my information. They could start looking me up and looking into things right away. The next things are what is going to be required other than the application. You are going to need 3 back pay stubs. You're going to need bank statements for the past 3 months. Now, if you're self-employed, this is a little different because you have to just print out whatever proof of payment that you have. They're not obviously going to be pay stubs. You're going to need probably 3 to 6 months of back bank statements so they can see that you do have money coming in if you're self-employed. And then lastly, if you are self-employed, they're gonna require the last 2 years usually of your tax return, because they need to prove on there that you are actually netting the 3 times the amount of the rent. So if you have a lot of write-offs and at the end of the year, you're not making that 3 times the rent that I mentioned earlier, you actually do not qualify for the apartment. You need to be netting that much money. So yeah, those are my tips and things that I did to get both of my apartments. I hope you guys found this video helpful. I will put some helpful links that I have in the description box down below. If you guys would like to see a part 2 of what to do after you finally get the apartment, some tips and tricks I have on affordable decorating and what you need to do with your landlord when you first move in, I would love to do that for you guys, so just leave that in the comments down below if that's something you would like to see. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye!